What's going on, it's the Rap Nerd, and while we are still in February, I figured I want to offer a little bit of black history of my own to y'all. Initially, I was going to make this a post, but I was like, I don't really want to be that formal. I just want to give my raw thoughts and just talk to y'all about, certain black films that really did a lot for me and put me on this path that I'm on now to be a director. You know what I mean? So,
RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.
So the first movie that really made an impact on me is Meteor Man. Just the idea that this is a black superhero movie that isn't, adapted. It doesn't have source material. This is just an original film, and the fact that they gave this brother money to do this, and Robert Townsend starred, wrote, and directed this movie. Like, the power in that just really set my mind to orbit. Like, as a kid growing up with comic books, you see on the wall I have comic books from the 90s that I used to buy every week, and looking at that source material, I loved it. But to see that on screen and kind of see a reflection of myself, I was like, that is dope. And that even got me started drawing my own characters. It got to a point when I was making my own cartoons, making my own comic books. Originally I wanted to be a director, but back in the 90s, it's kind of like, how does that happen? So I kind of moved to other things, but I gotta thank that movie for just putting that on the screen for me to see as a kid, like a black man in a superhero outfit, flying, superpowers, super speed, like dodging bullets, reflecting bullets. He had a dope suit that was silver, it was gray padded with a green cape, and it was just something, a sight to see as a black kid. Just like, oh wow, we can be superheroes. We can create these superheroes. And again, just the fact that it's original and he made that film, man. I don't even know if they could do that today. So that alone is a feat of its own. So gotta give it up for Meteor Man, easily. Next movie that really made an impact to me, as you can see, Candyman. That's the first black horror film that I really saw, and it shook me to my core. Because we always see Michael Myers, we see Jason Voorhees, we see Leatherface, we see Chucky, we see Freddy Krueger. We're like, oh, okay. And let's be frank, in all the movies, there's not that many black characters in there, so it's kind of like, whatever. And if you how we be, we watch these movies and like, get out of the way, don't go that way. We do that. We never see ourselves in that situation. I'm like, that's probably why we're not in horror movie, because we just think different. So for them to make a horror movie, the villain being black, and it takes place in black neighborhoods, and it's got some sort of like a myth to it. Like, to this day, I will not say Candyman 5 times. That's how crazy it was. Like, still, I would never say that in front of a mirror. And just for a film to have that kind of impact and to tell that kind of story, it just, again, opened the mind to like what we could be in film, what to see on TV. And I just, about Candyman. Like, everybody knows about Candyman, and the fact that he's just this iconic character that everybody knows and respects as a horror staple in the community. It's just like, I can't give my props enough to the film and it being created, like. So that's just another film that opened my lens up to horror and seeing myself within that genre. Staying in that horror genre, another one that really messed me up is Tales from the Hood. Like, this is another one, again, where it's just like they brought the horror to a level that resonates with other black people. Like, I saw that, and there's some situations in there that, like, are pretty common. You know what I'm saying? Like, that I can recognize and see eye to eye with. The idea of, for those who don't know, Tales from the Hood is pretty much an anthology story. The beginning, these gang members go to a funeral home to quote unquote rob it or whatever, and what's his name? What do they call them people? They're not coroners. What do they call them? I forgot what the term is for that. But the person who does the work for the bodies at the mortuary, he's just going to each body telling them a story of how they got there. It's just some scary stuff to see it brought to a level that you can really, really understand. Like, especially like I think the scariest one probably was the David Allen Greer sketch with him being just like, stepdad as a monster. That one was scary. The Game Maker one was scary, because it's just like, it's stuff that is you can see actually happening. You know what I mean? Especially in the 90s, like the gang shit was terrible back then. And just bringing a different side of that alone was something that stuck with me and just made me move different, like in life in general. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta give it up to Tales from the Hood for being something that's just so scary, so intense. Even watching it now, it is very intense and in your face, and it low-key does still scare the shit out of me. So I gotta give it up for Tales from the Hood. All right, so next on this list of movies that really impacted me was Bad Boys. The first one, of course, with Will Smith and Martin. Because prior to that time, these dudes were. And again, I don't know the time scale or whatever, but prior to this, they was just like comedy stars, working on sitcoms and doing movies here and there. But this threw them into the action category, and for it to be so funny as well as being action packed, it just put them two dudes on a higher level. And another thing about this movie is, and it could be the reason why it stuck with me, is my dad loved this movie. He used to reference this movie all the time in so many conversations. He would always tap me like, "Hey boy, I'm gonna get me a Porsche 911 Turbo." Like, he used to always talk about that Porsche at the end of the movie, saying he was gonna get it. And he watched it, and I was always around, and it's just crazy to see these two brothers leading such a iconic movie that we all know now for sure, ranging from number 1 to 4. And this was literally when both of them were still on the rise. So for them to be chosen to play these lead roles at such an early space in their career, it just took off. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of things about the cinematography that really stuck with me: the slow motion, the drama. How to balance the drama and the comedy, because it's funny as hell. Like, these two dudes going back and forth, Martin and Will. You can't deny that, yo. You know what I'm saying? It's just so, the chemistry is so natural that it doesn't even reflect their acting, but you can tell they're still putting their performances on. So again, it could have been drilled in my head because of my dad, but it's something that sticks with me every time I do my own writing. I'm like, okay, let me balance the comedy with the drama and not make one take place of the other when it's not necessary. And it's just a huge thing at the time. So I'm going to snowball that one into the next movie that really stuck with me is Independence Day. Like, when this movie dropped, right, Will Smith was on top of the world. And just the idea that a black man is on top of the film industry. Like, Independence Day is one of the biggest movies ever. It's associated with a holiday, and to have him cast and be the main character, you know what I'm saying? Like, it stuck with me forever. It's one of the most epic movies ever, in film history. A general fighting aliens and even going out of space and going to a ship to blow, like. And this is all Will Smith doing this, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that part there just makes it so much more special. Again, people like to say representation doesn't matter, but it does. Because I'm a guy, even now, the movies that I lean towards most are genre films. I love horror, I love fantasy, I love action, I love comic book movies. I like that is my space. So, sure, there are other black movies in the drama field and stuff other than that, but to be in those type of films, the genre films, and be leading the pack like that, it says a lot, because there's not that many. I mean, even now, it's still not that many, black people leading the charge in these genre films. So to see him do that in the 90s and it being received so well and it being a classic, like, across the board, it definitely just, turned things up to a whole different level for me personally, man. Like, that was the moment when I was like, damn, I can do anything. Like, that ass. That sounds corny, and you may not believe that, but it was real. Now, this next movie, here, bruh, this might be the biggest influence of mine in general. Blade. You already know what it is. Like, again, I said the kind of movies I like: action, and I've always been into martial arts heavily. Me and my dad used to watch martial arts movies all the time, eating Chinese food randomly, and I always into martial arts. Like I said, Jackie Chan is literally probably my favorite martial artist when it comes to the films. So when I found out there was a black man doing this shit here, and it was actually him doing it, that's the kicker. It was actually him doing the fighting because he knows martial arts. That's just like, because prior to seeing Blade, the only black person I really seen doing martial arts was Zack from Power Rangers. We all know back in the day, you know, TV was down here and movies were like the big shit. That's like, oh yeah, big shit popping is a movie. So to see Blade in a space like this, vampire slayer, knows martial arts, cold as fuck, dressed in all black leather, killing vampires, not giving a shit, doing what he wants. Ooh, this sent me on the path. I was like, oh yeah. Like I took like some like what is it? Some martial arts like special like what's it called? Trials because of this movie. Like Blade launched me into my love for martial arts, and that's why I'm really specific about my action these days and how things are framed and how things are edited and shot because of that movie right there. Well, of course, Jackie Chan before that, but that really, you know, brought me into it because I'm like, oh, okay, so other people, you know, can do that, you know what I mean, at a high level. And I'm telling you, even to this day, Blade 1 is still one of the coldest comic book movies ever. It's in my top 10 comic book movies, some of my favorite movies of all time. And I just love it, man. Like, I just love Wesley's approach to Blade, and how he just was somebody who don't give a fuck. I do what I want to do. You either deal with it or you don't. And again, some of the best action, period. And the fact that he just does it himself, come on. That is one of the biggest influences on this list, like straight up. The final influence for me and the final staple for me personally was Jordan Peele's Get Out. Like him just stepping up to the plate the way he did and knocking that shit out the park. And I feel like he had to remind folks with Get Out, you know what I'm saying, that oh yeah, we got some shit too. We got ideas too, you know what I'm saying? Like we here. And the fact that Jordan Peele did that, being he started his whole career being a comedian and a TV guy. So for him to just totally flip that and crank out that classic of Get Out, written and directed by Jordan Peele, you gotta give it up for the brother, man. Like single-handedly helped move the genre forward with black folks. It's a different ball game since Get Out came. You seen when Nope dropped, the energy shifted. Niggas was like, oh, Jordan dropping? Okay, it's a different ball game. So I feel like him doing that just put even more respect on our name, that like we can create. We here. We're gonna always be here. Just wait until the next generation of filmmakers come behind him and offer you something. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's probably been one of the biggest hits since the 90s, honestly, as far as like, in your face, successful, and just an impact on the world, in the film world. Like that's something that even people who aren't horror fans will watch, and they know about Get Out. The whole stirring the teeth thing, the sunken place. Like he added so much to just media and jargon and the idea of, black horror, that I gotta give it up for Jordan, man. Like, so long with it, I know, but those 7 films for me are the ones that had such an impact that put me on this path. And I'm just really working hard to be next on that path. I want to be in this list for another young kid who, sees, wants to make film, or just to give him some representation, or give him ideas. Like, I want to be that. I have so many ideas in here, and I'm going to work my ass off to get there, I promise you. And if you're watching this, I thank you, because you're helping me on that journey. And again, I have a short film I just put out called For Your Safety. It's on my YouTube channel. It's a short horror film, and that film is a culmination of all of these films that helped me build my film sense. And yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna keep you for long, but thank you for watching. Happy Black History Month for everybody. It's a short month, and I know I'm late as hell with this, but what can I say? Better late than never, right? But anyway, like, subscribe if you feel this content, and until next time, peace.